Chapter 10, A New Student. Early the next morning, Kailani went for a walk with Kavindra on her mind. The university was situated on a large hill, so right behind the dorms where Kailani lived, there was an 8-foot drop-off from the small grass study section into a wooded area that no one usually went into. So, Kailani made her way easily down the drop by holding on to a few strong roots poking through the dirt, and then she found several deer and raccoon trails to choose from to walk through. She began walking through the woods and had walked for maybe 10 minutes when she came across a patch of mushrooms in a nearly precise circular shape. "That's odd," she said to the forest, and proceeded to get closer. They were large mushrooms, with the purplish gills under the caps adnating and the golden-brown caps convexed. Kailani thought the mushrooms were a lot like her, fragile, yet surviving here in the forest, somehow. And then, she had a radical thought. What if the mushrooms were me, actually me, and the mushrooms knew this but I didn't? What if they had wisdom to share? At that moment she decided to sit in the middle of them, although she wasn't sure why. It just seemed to be calling her to do so, and she didn't want to ignore her intuition. The trees around her seemed to be breathing now, she could see their lungs, or whatever they had, moving in and out. Then everything else disappeared, and she thought, I am one with the universe. And, with a sudden start, she realized some of the depth of that idea. That means I am one with Kavindra. The exhilaration of the moment hit her and she called out, Kavindra, teach me your poetry. I want to write from my heart too. And the deer in the ether bowed and the rabbits thumped their feet with glee. The dragonflies pirouetted in synchronicity to signal the start of their famous, in certain circles, ballet number 139, and the ants, or once, rested and watched. A spotlight came on, and it was from somewhere very close. Kailani, at first, thought maybe someone was shining a very bright lantern in her face, but then the spotlight gradually dimmed, revealed to be nothing but a porch light, and it was attached to a rickety old cabin. Kailani rose in awe, and birds caught in the distance. The cabin was frightening and yet somehow inviting, all at the same time. A river with gleaming watery tips flowed in front, and a curved bridge was there to cross it. As she thought this, a voice whispered in her ear, just like the wisdom of the human heart, so are the depth of our experiences. Kailani walked over the bridge, not knowing why she was safe, and yet, also not knowing why she felt apprehensive. She knocked on the door and from inside, she heard a sound making its way across the floor to the door. It opened, and a very recognizable woman from the history books looked upon her with gleaming eyes of wisdom. It's you, Kailani said. It's really you. Chapter 11, The Poetry Continues. Some strange sense of time later, Kailani returned to her dorm at university, and she began writing voraciously. She now had pictures of apsaras across her room, and smiled when she thought of her muse, living in some otherworldly cabin. Her muse had watery hands and feet, and a head with an inverted white lotus on it, big black-lined eyes and full, purplish lips. Then, sometimes, she would appear just as she was in the encyclopedia. Either way, Kailani thought she was the most beautiful female she had ever seen. Her muse had taught her so much, and it seemed like years had gone by. However, upon returning to school, only 3 hours had passed since she left. She had been writing poetry constantly since her return, and was amazed at the words coming out of her. She had decided to dedicate herself to this art, and so the purchase of actual, real books of a great thesaurus and dictionary would have to be made. She had decided to severely limit the use of electronic books. Above her desk was an old picture of a young girl shaking the president's hand. This was Kailani's teacher now, and what a privilege it was. She wrote, as she thought about her, a flexible salver for the king, on it, he gets everything. He takes a berry and casts it aside, for now he knows what the tray doth hide. Nutrition for the mind, the pen bleed, this is what is fit for a king in need. Kailani looked at the strange pencil mark on her hand that had fully developed during her time with her muse, this indentation that her teacher told her would come. Use a pencil and paper like the old days, at least at first. She said. It's okay to use electronic devices but never forget the basics, for your primary writing fingers on either hand are attached to the memory functions of your brain. Explore different ways of using those fingers' nerves to expand your art, try different grips of pencils, then typing, and finger pad light touching. Press the sides of the fingers too, that's where the magic happens. Kailani had since found there was a wonderful feeling in using pencil and paper, a connection to something organic. She was proud of the sight of her calloused finger. Kailani thought that it was really amazing how late she had bloomed. Here she was at 20, just beginning to write poetry and to fall in love it. She sighed as she remembered something else her muse had told her about starting late. "You are just serotinous," she had said with a wink of her big, beautiful eye. Never the end.